Hey amazing creative! Wow, what can I say? Nothing really, only that I hope that you and your loved ones are well and managing to keep healthy and safe. And my heart goes out to all of you wherever you are, whatever is happening where you are. Just stay in, stay arting, and I've got some projects to help you. I'm going to keep it really simple so that we can all do them. So all you really need to do for this one today is you get something that you can scribble with and something to actually scribble on. Now I'm going to be using some water-soluble crayons, but use whatever you have, and if it's just a ballpoint pen and a pencil, maybe that's all you've got, then just go for it. But yeah, for this one I am actually going to go with lots of different colours. So the other thing that you need to think about is what surface you want to scribble on. And I don't think we're quite at the point where we need to scribble on the walls yet, so grab some paper and whatever you have. I have two different types of paper here that I'm using. One is a watercolour paper with a rough texture, and the other is a mixed media paper with a smooth texture. But again, if you don't have these, just use whatever you've got. So that could be newspaper, it can be scrap paper, it could be even printer paper, it doesn't really matter. Just whatever paper you've got, whatever tools you've got to scribble with, grab those and let's have a go with it. So start by just seeing how your crayon or your pen or your brush or your pencil, whatever you're using, I'm just going to call them all crayons from now on, but just, you know, substitute in whatever you're actually using. So start by finding out how it works on the paper that you're using and just scribble away, get some marks down. Can you use it to block out areas? Is it better for making lines or small marks? Can you make some big marks with it? What can you do? Can you use it in different angles and different ways? Say for instance using the side of it to see if you can block out and get some great coverage with it. Just really experiment. In this first sort of beginner layer, it doesn't really matter what goes on here, just have a go. Now, I really love the texture that I can get on this watercolour paper, and it's the reason why I picked it. I wanted to see how the crayon colour blended on this rough surface. So for instance, working a yellow over the blue that I put down gives a really lovely green, and these are the sorts of things just start trying out with your scribbles. You can kind of see I'm not really working to anything. It is literally as if I'm doing some swatches or something. And you can try also using whites here as well, and white can help blend out some of the colours some more. And it's particularly useful in this type of crayon, which by the way is I'm using the Neocolor II crayons. But as I said, any kind of crayon or tool you can substitute in with whatever you've got. So even if you're just using a pencil and a pen, have a think about what kind of marks you can make with it, how different ways of holding the pen or the pencil would work. Can you layer them over each other? Now I'm just trying the same blocking and blending on the smoother paper to see what effect that has, and it's quite a different look, isn't it? Can you see that? What a difference a texture can make with this type of work, and I like both that textured look and also the smoother look that I'm getting too. I mean, which one's your favourite? Do you have a favourite? And you know, you can always add your own texture to a piece by doing the same kind of scribbling, but put the paper over a textured surface, like some spare wood, an old tile, or even some textured fabric. And you can get some really interesting looks. But when you do that, you do need to use a thinner paper than I'm using here, because the heavier weight papers aren't as easy to do texture rubbings with. So that's when things like printer paper really helps. And those of you who have got my Get Creating ebook have already seen me do this, and I hope you've had fun trying this out as well. And it's amazing what textures you can find when you're looking for them. So I call both of these papers that I'm using today sort of more play papers, as they aren't artist quality, they're not professional quality, but are perfectly grabbable and scribbleable. A new word there, scribbleable. And doing this kind of instant carefree work is great for helping you creating, keeping loose, and will help you even when you come to swap on to your best papers and using your best tools. So art doesn't need to always be the best tools that you've got. So it can be done with anything you can grab. And it just really needs you to be open and free to create, which I do have to admit has been pretty hard at the moment. So I hope that something like this, a nice, easy exercise, will help you some more to create some more and take a little breather from everything that's going on. Now, as I'm using water-soluble crayons, I'm going to add some water, and you don't have to if you aren't. Just keep on adding marks and seeing where you can go with your piece. Be bold, be big, or if you want to, go small, but just go for it and scribble away. If you're using colours like I am, don't worry about what colour to pick. Don't try and pre-plan your colours or set a colour combo or anything like that. Just grab the nearest colour or the ones that are really jumping out at you when you come to change up the colour, and don't worry about if it will mix well with the other colours that are already there. This is a great place to learn which colours work together and which don't, and just by doing it. And you might find some really interesting combinations that you hadn't thought about before. Like for me, I'm really loving the way that the layering of the red on that left hand side piece, where I've layered it over the wet yellow colour. It sort of gave me a bit of a peachy orange that seemed to travel down the page as I scribbled. And then I just grabbed a green, which I wouldn't usually layer over or mix with a red unless I was purposely trying to make an interesting neutral colour. But I do really love how these two colours work together on this piece. Other things to try if you are using water-soluble crayons, that is using a dry crayon into a wet surface and seeing how that works for you. And it was really interesting the way that those first pink circles that I scribbled into the background on the right-hand side piece, they almost etched into that wet surface, making their own texture. And I could see that kind of texture a lot more on the smoother paper, where the colour in the water is sitting more on the surface of the paper than on that watercolour paper, where the water and the colour has absorbed more into the texture on the surface. So there's an interesting difference between the two different types of paper. And these sorts of discoveries are found by just trying out what you've got and seeing if there's a difference and what kind of difference the surfaces make. So it really is another reason to just try out whatever papers you have to hand. Now you can keep on building with your crayon, and I went from those blocks of colours that were really very swatchy, weren't they? And I then sort of moved up through different lines until I got to a sort of doodle layer. I also tried some other things as well, like I pulled out colour in the line doodles with a brush and water on that left hand side to fill some of those in. And then I've added drips and dribbles with the crayon as well to add more texture. I went from a leafy look or theme on the left hand side, but it wasn't on purpose. I wasn't sort of thinking or planning it, I was just sort of letting it happen. And on the right hand side, I sort of geared more towards a doodle look and fell back on some of my favourite kind of doodle motifs that I love to explore in my daily doodle diary and elsewhere. So, you know, it doesn't really matter what you do here, it's just, you know, the key is to keep doing. The aim of the game is just to play, keep layering, keep experimenting with each layer that you do. And see what else you can do with your crayons, and see what other marks and ways of putting colour down, or if you're not using colour, putting whatever down that you can, and see how it builds up and what differences you can make and what contrasts you can get on a piece. So keep going, then share the result with me on Instagram, and you can tag me in because I really want to see your play. And I hope to be back really soon to share another creative exercise that is something that we can all do. So keep colourful, keep well, and I will see you soon.